Christmas Eve had always held a special place in our hearts, a night that seemed almost enchanted. Our house transformed into a vibrant hub of activity, brimming with the warmth of family and the joy of holiday traditions. Every year, without fail, we hosted my grandparents, uncles, aunts, and cousins, creating a lively atmosphere filled with love and laughter. The air would hum with cheerful chatter, the clinking of glasses, and the sound of classic Christmas carols playing softly in the background. This particular year, I was 12 on the cusp of teenagehood, and as excited as ever to see everyone gather under one roof. The evening started off like so many before it, but by the time it ended, we found ourselves facing an unforgettable moment that would leave an indelible mark on all of us. The kitchen was the heart of the house that night, bustling with activity as my mom worked tirelessly to prepare her signature Christmas Eve dish, roast duck. It was a recipe she had honed over many years, and its tantalizing aroma had become a hallmark of our holiday celebrations. She moved with practiced ease, chopping, stirring, and tasting as the meal came together. This year, however, I found myself drafted into the role of her assistant. Normally, that task would have fallen to my dad, but he had been laid low by a nasty cold, relegating him to the couch with a box of tissues and a bottle of cough syrup. My mom assured me I'd be a great help, though I suspected she was more interested in keeping me out of trouble than in my culinary skills. Reluctantly, I tied on an apron, trying my best to be useful while sneaking occasional bites of cookie dough from the counter when she wasn't looking. Slowly, family members began trickling in. My Uncle Tom arrived first with my cousins, Max and Emma. They were closest to me in age, so naturally we were inseparable during family gatherings. Max excitedly pulled a video game out of his bag, Driver 2, a game I had been dying to play. The moment I saw it, my mom lost her kitchen helper. The three of us bolted upstairs to my room, leaving the cooking chaos behind. Max popped the disc into my PlayStation and we started playing. Emma watched us, giggling at our competitive banter. It wasn't long before my mom's voice shattered our fun, yelling up the stairs for me to come back. She sounded stressed, her voice sharp with urgency. I sighed, knowing I couldn't ignore her. Reluctantly, I left the game on pause and trudged back downstairs, dragging my cousins with me. The house was now alive with chatter and the aroma of delicious food. Most of the family had arrived and the dining table was nearly set. Everyone was bustling about, exchanging hugs and laughter, while I helped my mom with last-minute preparations. Soon, the entire family was present, and we were minutes away from sitting down to dinner when my mom let out a frustrated exclamation. "Ah, damn it. I forgot the stuffing," she groaned, slapping her forehead. Then, she turned to me with a pleading look. "Run to the basement and grab it, please." Our house, though cozy and familiar, had its quirks, one of which was the lack of a proper pantry. Over the years, my parents had come up with creative solutions to make do, and the backside of the bar in the basement became our go-to storage spot for canned goods, holiday treats, and anything that didn't fit in the kitchen cupboards. It wasn't the most convenient setup, especially on Christmas Eve when the house was bustling, but it worked. This time, I had been sent on one of my least favorite errands, retrieving the stuffing mix for dinner. I grumbled under my breath as I trudged downstairs, frustrated that I always seemed to be the one tasked with these menial jobs. My mom's cheerful assurances about how much she appreciated my help only went so far in easing my irritation. The basement greeted me with its usual dim lighting and cool, slightly musty air. It wasn't a place I particularly enjoyed, but I had spent enough time down there to know the layout like the back of my hand. The bar stood at the far end, flanked by two old sofas that had seen better days and were now relegated to collecting dust. I made my way across the room, muttering about how unfair it was that Max and Emma were upstairs having fun while I was stuck doing chores. Reaching the bar, I began my search for the elusive stuffing mix, shifting boxes and peering into corners. That's when something unusual caught my attention. In the shadowy corner near the sofas, a lumpy shape lay hidden beneath a blanket. At first glance, it didn't seem out of place. We often tossed blankets and cushions around the basement during movie nights. But as I looked closer, the shape seemed wrong. My heart gave a little jolt. The outline was disturbingly familiar, almost as if a person was curled up under the blanket. My first reaction was to assume it was Max, up to his usual antics. This was exactly the kind of prank he loved, waiting for someone to come downstairs so he could jump out and give them a scare. I paused where I stood, squinting through the dim light, trying to make out more details. The rounded bulge at one end of the blanket looked unmistakably like a head. Curiosity and suspicion battled within me as I took a cautious step closer. "All right, Max," I muttered under my breath, half expecting him to leap out at any moment. My heart was pounding now, but I told myself it was just nerves. This had to be one of his jokes. I moved as quietly as I could, determined to catch him off guard and ruin his fun. But as I approached, nothing happened. The shape beneath the blanket didn't shift or even twitch. It just lay there, eerily still, as if waiting. I hesitated, suddenly unsure. What if it wasn't Max? Before I could decide my next move, the basement was plunged into darkness. The faint, steady glow of the overhead lights disappeared without warning, leaving me in complete blackness. For a split second, I froze, my breath catching in my throat. Then, from upstairs, I heard the basement door slam shut with a resounding bang that echoed down the stairwell. The sound jolted me out of my stupor, and panic surged through me. "Very funny, Max," I shouted, my voice trembling despite my attempt to sound annoyed. I forced a laugh, trying to convince myself this was all part of his elaborate prank, determined to prove my theory and turn the tables on whoever was behind this. I reached out, my fingers trembling, but as the fabric fell away, the words caught in my throat. My mouth opened in a silent scream, but no sound came out. What I saw beneath the blanket wasn't Max. It wasn't anyone I recognized, and it wasn't something I could explain. There was no laughter, no playful yelp, just an eerie, suffocating silence that seemed to press down on me. My heart thundered in my chest as my trembling hand brushed against something cold, smooth, and completely unfamiliar. I recoiled instinctively, but before I could fully process what was happening, a sudden, vice-like grip closed around my neck. It was so fast, so unexpected, that for a moment my brain struggled to catch up with the reality of what was happening. The pressure was unbearable, like an iron clamp squeezing the life out of me. My instincts kicked in and I thrashed wildly, clawing at the hands that were choking me. My nails scraped against coarse, calloused skin, but it made no difference. The grip didn't loosen. I screamed, or at least tried to, but the sound was strangled, weak, barely a whimper against the crushing force on my throat. Desperation flooded me, and tears stung my eyes as I fought with everything I had. Suddenly, the basement door flew open, and light flooded the room. I gasped as I caught sight of the man who had been attacking me. He was filthy, his hair matted and his clothes torn. His wild, sunken eyes locked onto mine for a fraction of a second before he released me and bolted toward the backyard door. I collapsed on the floor, gasping for air as my mom and aunts rushed to help, while my uncles chased the intruder outside. Through tears, I pointed to the backyard door, screaming, "He went that way." The police called it a homeless squatter seeking warmth, but the fear of being attacked still haunted me. My cousins admitted they'd turned off the lights as a prank, unaware of the real danger. That Christmas Eve taught us a hard, unforgettable lesson: never leave doors unlocked, no matter how safe you think you are. It only takes one moment of carelessness for things to spiral out of control, as we learned that night. To this day, the memory of what happened lingers in the back of my mind, a constant reminder of how vulnerable we had been. Basements, once just another part of the house, now send a shiver down my spine. I can't step into one without feeling that same creeping unease, as if the shadows themselves might hold something waiting to strike. always prioritize safety and security, even in familiar and festive settings. A moment of carelessness, such as leaving doors unlocked, can invite unexpected dangers. Trust your instincts, stay alert, and remember that pranks can sometimes have unintended and serious consequences,